Some children make you proud, my father said, his whiskey glass catching the light. Others just take up space. The clinking stopped. The laughter froze. My mother's eyes darted toward me, silently begging me not to react, not to ruin another dinner. I didn't. I just smiled. Good thing I'm moving into my new place 3,000 miles away today, I said, my voice steady, sweet even.
Don't worry, Dad.
You'll never have to deal with me again. The silence after that was thick enough to chew. My older brother shifted awkwardly, his wife pretended to check her phone, and the tension around the table turned the air electric. My father just smirked, satisfied with the chaos he'd created, and took another sip. That was his game, humiliation served with bourbon. And I'd finally decided to stop playing. My name is Haley Monroe, I'm 29, and this dinner was my unofficial goodbye. I'd spent years chasing crumbs of approval from a man who thought parenting was a performance. Every success I earned, my degree, my job, my independence, he reduced to luck. And every mistake? Proof I was a disappointment. But that night, his words didn't sting. They confirmed what I'd already known. I didn't belong in that house anymore. What he didn't know was that before sitting down at that table, I'd already packed my life into 2 suitcases and made a call that would turn his perfect world upside down. That call wasn't to a friend or a moving truck. It was to a lawyer. A quiet, brilliant woman named Elaine Foster, who specialized in family financial disputes. I discovered something a month ago that kept me up every night since. My trust fund, the one Mom swore would be released when I turned 28, had been emptied. Not by the bank. Not by accident, but by him. Every cent of the inheritance my late grandmother left me had been rerouted through a dummy account in my father's company. When I first saw the records, I thought it was a mistake. But the longer I stared, the more it made sense. My father, the man who said I took up space, had been living off my grandmother's legacy for years. Elaine's voice on the phone had been calm, almost cold. Haley, we can prove this. But you need to leave that house quietly. Don't confront him until we're ready. So, I smiled through that dinner, pretending I didn't know I was sitting across from a thief. Pretending my move was about freedom, not justice. When I finally stood up from the table, I placed my napkin down carefully. It's been enlightening, I said softly. My father raised a brow, smug. You'll come crawling back. I smiled again. You're right, Dad, but next time, I won't be empty-handed. And as I walked out that night, I knew his kingdom was about to collapse. By sunrise, I was already gone. The Pacific Coast Highway stretched ahead, miles of freedom, glittering ocean to my right, my old life shrinking in the rearview mirror. In the passenger seat sat a brown leather folder, the evidence. Bank transfers, forged signatures, and emails from my father's accountant marked confidential. I'd copied everything before he even knew I was onto him. Elaine called while I was driving. Haley, I've gone through every document. What your father did isn't just unethical, it's criminal. Embezzlement, fraud, possible tax evasion. Are you sure you want to proceed? I stared at the ocean. He stole my future, I said. He's not keeping it. By the time I reached Los Angeles, Elaine had already filed the motion for a financial audit of Goldcrest Holdings, my father's company. A legal tsunami in motion. That night, sitting in my new apartment, a tiny studio with cracked paint and a view of the city, I felt something I hadn't felt in years.
Peace.
But peace doesn't come without ghosts. At 11:43 p.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number. You think you're smart, Haley? You've made a mistake bigger than you can imagine. Don't come back. No signature. Just that familiar rhythm of rage in the words, his voice echoing through text. I turned off my phone, locked my door, and whispered to the empty room. You can't threaten someone who's already free. 3 days later, the story broke. Goldcrest Holdings under federal investigation. CEO allegedly misused family trusts. It was everywhere, financial blogs, local papers, even a 2-minute spot on the evening news. The photo they used was from last year's gala. My father smiling beside a mayor, his hand gripping a glass of champagne. I'd never seen that smile look so hollow. Elaine called again, her tone brisk but pleased. The auditors froze his personal accounts this morning. The SEC wants full cooperation. Haley, you just toppled him. I sat there, speechless. Already?
Yes.
You did everything right. For a long moment, I couldn't speak. I'd imagined justice for so long, but I hadn't expected it to feel like this. Quiet.
Heavy.
Necessary. By nightfall, my mother called. Her voice trembled. Haley, what did you do? The house, your father's furious. There are reporters outside. I swallowed hard. I didn't do anything wrong, Mom. I just told the truth. She sighed. Weary, broken. You should have warned me. Warned you. I whispered. He's been lying to you too. Silence. Then, softly, she said, he said you'll regret this. I looked out my window at the glittering city lights and let out a slow breath. He's right, I murmured. But not for the reason he thinks. Because what he didn't know was that Elaine had just discovered another account, one that could finish everything. The second account was hidden deeper, a shell company in the Cayman Islands under a fake consultant's name, R.M. Golding. Elaine's voice came through the speakerphone, sharp with disbelief. Haley, this isn't just theft. He's been laundering company funds for almost 8 years. My stomach turned. 8 years.
Yes.
Which means he's been stealing long before your grandmother passed. This isn't about you anymore. This is about everyone he's defrauded, his investors, his board, the government. I stared at the folder on my desk, at his signature replicated again and again. The man who said I took up space had built his empire on lies. Elaine's tone softened. Haley, the authorities will want a statement from you directly. You'll be protected. But your name's going to come out eventually. I hesitated. Then let it. Because I'd spent my entire life being silent in that house, watching him humiliate, control, and belittle everyone around him, all under the mask of being a respected businessman. Not anymore. That evening, I sat at my kitchen counter, typing my statement. Every word felt like a blade carving my freedom into stone. When I sent it off, my hands shook. Not from fear, from release. Then, I poured myself a small glass of wine, raised it to the empty room, and whispered, "Here's to taking up space." And somewhere across the country, I knew his glass was shattering instead. The fallout came faster than anyone expected. Within 48 hours, my father's company went into crisis mode. The board suspended him pending investigation, shareholders demanded explanations, and federal agents executed a search warrant at our family home. I didn't have to see it to imagine it. The flashing lights against the marble driveway, his voice shouting from the porch, Mom crying on the steps. That house had always looked like power, now it looked like exposure. Elaine called me from D.C., it's official. They've filed charges, wire fraud, embezzlement, falsifying documents. He'll be arraigned Monday. I exhaled slowly, pressing my palm to my chest. What about Mom? She's listed as a dependent witness, not a target. They know he kept her in the dark. That night, I sat on my balcony, overlooking the Los Angeles skyline. I could almost hear the echo of his voice. You'll never make it without me. But the city below whispered something louder. Watch me. My phone buzzed again. This time, a text from my brother. You really destroyed him, Haley. He's talking about disowning you. I typed back only one word. Good. Because I'd rather be disowned than owned. When I finally went inside, I noticed something small on the counter, an unopened envelope with my name on it. Elaine had overnight new documents. I tore it open and froze. Inside was proof of the last secret he'd tried to bury. The document inside wasn't financial. It was personal. A sealed adoption record. My adoption record. Elaine's note was clipped to the front. He altered your birth certificate when you were 6. You're not biologically a Monroe, but your grandmother still named you sole heir in her original will. For a moment, the room tilted. I sat down, the pages trembling in my hands. So that's why he'd stolen the inheritance. Not just greed, fear. If anyone discovered I wasn't his blood, the money, the company's name, the legacy, all of it would legally bypass him. The man who'd spent my life telling me I didn't belong had literally tried to erase the proof that I once did. I called Elaine immediately. "So, he adopted me to control the will," I said. "Yes," she confirmed. "And now that we've proven fraud, everything your grandmother left you is yours again. He can't touch a dime." For the first time in months, I laughed, not out of joy, but disbelief. "He called me useless," I whispered. "And all this time, he needed me to keep his empire alive." Elaine exhaled softly. "Haley, what do you want to do now?" I looked out at the Los Angeles skyline again, the city lights flickering like candles in the wind. "Exactly what he feared most," I said. "I'm going home." And this time, he would be the one answering questions. The day I flew back home, the news was everywhere. Goldcrest CEO arrested in $12 million fraud scheme. Reporters lined the driveway as agents escorted my father out in handcuffs. The same man who once sneered that I took up space now couldn't meet a single camera's eye. When he saw me step out of the car, his expression curdled into disbelief. "You," he hissed, voice trembling. "You who did this to me." I stood still, composed, my heels clicking on the marble he once forbade me to walk on. "No, Dad," I said softly. "You did this to yourself. I just stopped cleaning up after you." My mother stood behind the door, her face pale but different, lighter, freer. She didn't rush to defend him this time. She just whispered, "Haley, thank you." Later that week, in court, I gave my statement. My hands didn't shake. My voice didn't crack. "My father taught me that worth was something you had to earn," I said. "But all he ever earned was fear. And fear dies the moment you stop feeding it." The judge nodded. The gavel struck. Months later, standing in my new office, the headquarters of Monroe Ethical Investments, funded by what my grandmother actually left me, I looked out at the skyline and smiled. Dad was behind bars. Mom was in therapy. And I finally